Have you ever wondered where you truly stand financially? In today's video, we're going to be breaking it down. Does your net worth put you in the upper class, the middle class, or the lower class? When it comes to calculating net worth, you take your assets minus your outstanding debt, and voila, you have that number. So if you have $100,000 in assets, you have $10,000 in debt, that means your net worth would be 90K. But how do we break it down? Now, of course, the net worth, breaking it down from the upper, middle, and lower class, is from a 2023 survey of consumer finances, breaking it down mathematically into each group. This is not the only thing that really goes into being wealthy. There can be a multitude of factors, but when you start breaking it down again, kind of wealth-wise, mathematically, you want to know exactly where you are. And we're going to be starting with the lower class. Now, the lower class has an average net worth of around $16,900. Now, with that being said, a majority of this is kind of age-based as well, where if you're a younger, let's say you're in college, you have student loan debt, let's say you're 25, you're starting to get out of college, starting to get in a career, chances are your net worth will be negative because you do carry an exorbitant amount of student loan debt. If you have some credit card debt, if you had to do some financing, chances are at that point you are going to be in the negative net worth, which of course is going to put you in that lower class mathematically. But we know when you start a career, because you haven't had the opportunity and you haven't had the time factor to actually start building wealth. So this actually starts usually about 30 plus when you're a little bit more established in your career or in the workforce for a multitude of years. When you start looking at the middle class, it is broken into 3 separate divisions, which is very important to know. And when a lot of people say that the middle class is slowly being eliminated, that the upper class is really just eclipsing what the middle class is doing, the lower middle class is an average net worth of $58,550. So we have lower middle class is about 60K. Now, of course, this is a lot of the blue collar jobs. This is a lot of where we kind of fall as a nation. When you start looking at the averages, I believe the average salary range is about $65,000 to $70,000. And this, of course, is for one individual. When you start looking at dual incomes, it can have a little bit of a bigger effect. And of course, looking at the lower middle class and the net worth itself, 58K is pretty good. You're still in the positive, which is good, and you're starting to grow the wealth. Now, when we start looking at the middle class falls into 169,000. So this is going to be the point of your career where you're starting to get money in investment accounts. You're starting to put money into those 401k plans. You're starting to build, and a lot of the net worth, the average net worth, comes from owning a home. When you start thinking of a purchase price of a home, then you start paying that home down over 5, 10, 15 years. You are building equity in the house. Now, that is where a majority of Americans actually do carry all of their net worth is in their home. Even if you do have, even looking the average of 401k balances in retirement, around 170K, which you're there right now, the middle class of the net worth. But then you throw in the equity that is built within a home, it puts your net worth skyrocketing. Now, the upper middle class, which again, we said there were 3 actually levels of middle class. The upper middle class falls into $300,800. So just north of that $300,000 for the upper middle class is the average net worth. Again, when you start thinking of 401k balances, when you start thinking of retirement accounts, it is really looking at an average net worth of 300,000. Average 401k balance is around 165, 175. So again, a lot of that is starting to come into play when it comes into that upper middle class with the retirement and also paying down that house. Now, when you start looking at the upper class, there is a big gap, of course, with this. When you start looking at the upper class, you're looking at $793,000. That is right. When you look at the upper class, you are almost to $1 million. We're at 800,000 with the upper class, again, for the net worth calculation. And of course, it's easier than ever because of home prices, like we had said, to really make up a lot of net worth. Now, what if you want to be in the top 10%? So thinking of the top 10% and thinking of the jump kind of that we talked about, when you look at the upper class, they're at 800K. When you look at the top 10%, you're at $2.65 million. That's right. So again, you think what's that, like 4x when it comes to being in the top 10%. So not only going from that upper class echelon of the 800,000, but going to the top 10%, you're at 2.65 million, which again makes a big difference. And this can, like I said earlier, be very dependent on your age, where if you're just getting out of school, let's say you're going to school for 8 years to be a doctor, chances are you're going to have a ton of time to build up once you get a practice. Once you start getting out into the working world, where you might be sitting on, $200,000 of student loan debt, having a massive negative net worth. But as soon as you start making money, and for a majority of individuals that are in school, hearing that student loan debt, of course, can drive it down. So how do you increase the net worth? That is something I definitely want to look at. When you start looking at net worth, it is about investing. There's no need to be obsessed with it. It is really just a number to really check in to saying, hey, if you're getting ready for retirement, where exactly are you at? What are the 401k balances you have? What is Social Security going to look like? You'll have a lot more financial security as you do age. And as long as you're setting aside money, which of course, it is a commitment to not only saving and investing a portion of your income. This is the big reason why I focus outside of like Dave Ramsey's baby steps, why I say when it comes to retirement, a lot of people that do not start retiring early not only lose the compounding effect that we have when it comes to investing, but you'll also get to the point, and a lot of people do, that they never start investing. They said they wish they would have done it, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. You have to start now, even if you start with 10%. And I know it can be a lot for quite a few people to really set aside and live and really exist on 90% of your income. But trust me, the more the sooner that you start investing, the better it's going to be, at least at the bare minimum, getting the company match. We have a company match at the company that I work for, and not everybody takes advantage of it, which again can kind of be crazy. Now, when you start investing, it is going to be investing in the stock market. This is where millionaires are made. When we talk about wealth, when we talk about wealth generation, this is the place when you look at doubling your money roughly every 7 years. Average growth rate of the stock market is around 10%, which is kind of crazy. You want to keep it in stocks. You want to keep it specifically in ETFs. I know a lot of people talk about mutual funds. Specifically, I like the index funds. I go ahead and invest all my money into ETFs, which of course track different indexes. We have the NASDAQ 100, the S&P 500, a couple different ones in there, and I do have some investment videos down below. And of course, guys, if you like the content that I'm putting out, please subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But of course, when it comes to building and personal finance, building an emergency fund, we cannot stress this enough. When it comes to Dave Ramsey, when it comes to pretty much financial advisors unanimously talking about having an emergency fund, this is going to keep you from an unexpected expense. This is also going to keep you from borrowing money. When it comes to the price tag of borrowing money, whether it's an unsecured loan, whether it's credit card debt, it is detrimental to your net worth. It is detrimental to your finances. You end up paying exponentially when it comes to credit cards, especially now when they're running about 25% interest on those cards. Even if you're just putting a few $1,000s on there, it is adding up very quick, and it can snowball very fast if you continue to add on the balance faster than you're actually paying it down. That is why when you look at your credit card statements and it says it's going to take you 19 years to pay it off, they know exactly what they're doing. And that's why all of these credit card companies are posting record profits that we've been seeing. And of course, you have to be super selective, like we were talking, on taking on debt and also avoiding high interest debt in its entirety. Credit cards are literally a pandemic that we see that is not going anywhere. And the balances are going up exponentially to the point where people can no longer afford the credit cards. They are starting to declare bankruptcy. We're seeing the delinquencies rise. And when we see that, the credit scores just get hammered. When you're looking to build wealth, you have to stay away from the high interest debt at all costs. It might mean cutting out whatever you have to in your life, coming up with a budget, coming up with a spending plan, knowing exactly where your money is going, and trying to repay debt, not only not accumulating new debt, but getting into the repayment of that high interest debt. Because again, when it comes to growing over time, that debt can exponentially just train wreck and derail your investments. It can do everything. I have seen a lot of people even taking loans from 401ks for debt consolidation. I've seen people taking equity of homes for debt consolidation. They work very short term. When you do consolidation loans, when you do home equity consolidations, even if you remortgage to go ahead and include debt in there, if you do not fundamentally change the spending habits, you are going to be back in debt. And that is exactly what I see. Usually every 3 to 5 years, we see individuals that are doing the same thing over and over and over again because they have never really changed the spending patterns that they have. Now they've accumulated new credit card debt and they have the other loans from the consolidation they did before because they don't have that emergency fund. They don't have that budget. They don't know exactly where their money is going to. So guys, net worth is very, very important, determining kind of where you're at. And of course, it is up to you to change exactly where you are. If you want to be in the upper class, the middle class, the lower class, if you want to be in the 10%, and there are so many things out there, especially with side hustles, with the internet, with the ability to generate income in so many different ways, including YouTube, just like I do right here. Got a regular job, I do YouTube. My wife has 2 jobs. We have a ton of stuff going on right now, but of course, it is up to you. If you want to learn a new skill, if you want to learn a new ability, if you want to do anything, it is available for you online. Even if you want to do video editing, whatever it is, you can do it for pretty much free to take the time and effort. Spend 30 days, learn a new skill and ability, generate that extra income, which is going to be a game changer for you and for your family for the rest of your life. So, all right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.